We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Flugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our channel. Smash that like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends. Welcome in. Welcome into the studio that sits on the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to be a PATC legend with your comments in the chat room, in your phone calls later in the show. The number is 763-260-1333, but the lines are not open yet. The lines are not open yet. I will let you know when they open. This is going to be a big show. Big show tonight. We usually don't have big shows on Friday night, but we have to do it. Yes, we're going to push the envelope just a little bit further. Just a little bit more when it comes to what's happening inside the Holy Smokes Theater. And for those who are new to the show, we got new people coming in all the time. The Holy Smokes Theater is a way for us to tell you, giving you a peek around the corner when it comes to all that's happening in college football. It's a way for us to tell you what we have been told, what we believe is going on. Cloak and dagger, cloak and dagger, cloak and dagger. we have a lot to get to tonight. But this is ACC drama, and it's going to play out for a very long time. You thought that the Pac-12, Big 12 drama played out for a very long time. That ain't nothing compared to what we are about to witness. In fact, we've been witnessing here on this ACC drama all the way back to December 26, 2022. When the Florida State Money Perch told us, we reported, but we did stand down for most of that story. But we let a little bit out. On December 26, 2022, we said in a couple months, Florida State was going to make a public appeal to the ACC. Things are going to have to change. And that is Florida State getting out of the ACC, attempting to get out of the ACC well before the grant of rights ends in 2036. And when we did that live show on December 26, 2022, what happened in February 24, 2023? 2 months later, just like the Florida State Money Perch told us that was in the plans for Florida State, Mike Alford comes out and lays a bomb. Florida State then later on has, their Board of Trustees meeting out in the open. All of the board members saying, ACC, something has to change. And that we believe is coming in the first quarter of 2024. So we've been a witness to this. The PATC community has gotten the peak. You're ahead of the rest, just like you were with the Colorado story, just like you were if you were following our Twitter account on March 31st, 2022, when it came to USC, when it came to Oregon and Washington. By the way, let's get into Oregon and Washington. How the story unfolded. What happened? Ross Dillinger of Yahoo Sports puts on an article this morning, but we're not even going to really get into the Oregon-Washington story. You know that already. You know that because you were here. Most of you were here listening to us every day, every night, saying that Fox Sports wanted Oregon and Washington, and it was going to happen either 5 months from now or 5 years from now. Even though most people said it was all done, it wasn't going to happen, We're not going to really get into that part of the Ross Dillinger story, part of it. I want to get to the part of the story where it talks about Kevin Warren's list. The list of schools that the presidents and chancellors looked over. It was the summer of 2022. When they knew that USC and UCLA were going to become, or they thought this was going to happen, going to become members of the Big Ten, when it was dropped on June 30th, when everybody found out. But then soon after, all these schools called, and the presidents, the chancellors, and Kevin Warren made a list of the schools that were valuable enough for them to look at and who they thought were attainable. That's the PATC money shot of the article. We're going to get to it right now. After I thank everybody for coming on in early on a Friday evening. Thank you, Randy Taylor. Appreciate it. Skull Ducky, Bruce Harris, Boomer, Randy Taylor, BR 7062. Details. Yes, we're going to get into a little bit more details. I'm only going to push the envelope so far, but it is more details. Can't give you names. There's multiple names that are involved in this. Outside I'm not even going to say that. But yes, you're going to get more details. The Evil Badger, Jeff Olson, is in the house. John Menster's in the house. Ted Evans, bow down to Washington. He's in the house. He's getting ready. Ted Evans is getting ready. Oregon, Washington, here at PATC, we're going to be doing a live watch party. Come join us. Have some fun. We'll start about 15, 20, 30 minutes before the kickoff. Give us a look here at Peek Around the Corner. We're going to have a lot of good time on that. Juan Carlos, no Utah on that list. Time to treat sources out of Utah for what they are, uninformed. That's a little harsh. Remember, this is the summer, July, August of 2022. And this is Kevin Warren's list. This is not Tony Petitti's list. And we're going to talk more about that once we get inside the Holy Smokes Theater tonight and see what's a-happening. See what's a-happening. Obsidian, thanks for coming on in. Cougar Track, Say Mac. Jim Reese, thanks. Mick Stevens, Go Frogs. A whole bunch of people are in the house. I appreciate it. I appreciate it because, well, this is a Friday evening. Lou's in the house. Jay Go Blues in the house. John Freed. The Brad King is in the house. Roll Tide, Greg. Spill some B. No, I'm sorry. Spill some tea. I've invested in it all. Thank you, Roll Tide. Appreciate it. Alabama is represented at Immaculate. I'm thinking Georgia Tech is also on Petitti's list. He may be on Petitti's list, but Georgia Tech is not in the Holy Smokes Theater. And we might expound on that a little bit more tonight as well. But thank you, Mr. Hot Guy, for coming on in. Let's get into the article. We're not going to go through the whole article. Look, we did it in real time. We've been over it and over it and over it. We were there. We were the ones who told you. We were the ones that said Washington, Oregon, New York City, Washington, Chicago, the meetings happened. They were wanted by Fox Sports. They were paid for by Fox Sports. Nobody else put in a dime more. CBS didn't. NBC didn't. They're going to pay for the next expansion. Let's get into the article. We've got to get into it. Okay. And then we'll get to your comments. Again, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe to the channel. Smash that like button if you want to. We run on donations here. It's what keeps the lights on here at Peek Around the Corner. If you hit the $, give us a donation. We'll get to your comments as soon as possible. But thanks for all joining us this evening. We're going to get more. We're going to put out a little bit more details tonight. And I really think you're going to be interested in hearing what we have to say. And this information, well, I don't know how to say it. It's solid. Rock solid. Okay? Ross Dellinger, senior college football reporter, Seattle. The text came through early. Well, before Dave Zeke woke up. Now, first of all, I'm going to have to apologize here. We're not going to go through much of the article, but we're going to be stopping and going because there is so much we got to get through. Right off the bat, Dave Zeke. I pronounce the last name Zeke. The text came through early, well before Dave Zeke woke up. Bleary-eyed, he rolled over towards his phone, glanced at it, did a double take. The sender, Washington President Kase, had written a few short words to Zeke, the chair of the University Board of Regents. 3 of them stuck out. Oregon is in. Oregon is in. Zeke immediately knew what that meant. Okay, I gotta take a timeout here. I have to take a timeout real quick. I gotta talk to you all. First of all, thank you, Mr. Henderson, Helmer Henderson. I appreciate your continued huge generosity to this channel. Sorry if I already addressed, but whatever happened to Notre Dame in the theater? Hope your beloved Gophers make a terrific recovery. A miraculous recovery, possibly. If they play Iowa, come on. They always lose to Iowa. We're not talking about the Gophers tonight. Just let me. I understand you're hoping that my beloved Gophers make a recovery, but let's just not talk about the Gophers this week. And a moment of peace for everybody, including this old maroon and gold heart. We're going to talk about them next week because they're going to play the Iowa Hawkeyes. They always lose to the Hawkeyes. We'll talk about next week. But whatever happened to Notre Dame in the theater, they are sitting in the fifth row. They're sitting in the fifth row. NBC and Toto Petiti are in the sixth row. North Carolina's in the first row. We'll get through all that, Helmer Henderson, but thank you so much for your super chat. I appreciate it so very much. Dave Zeke. Dave Zeke. The chairman of the board. Now, if you all remember, we talked about somebody being at the University of Washington's board who did not want Washington to go to the Big 12 no matter what, who had a lot of power, who had a lot of say, who was into sports, and they wanted Washington to go to the Big 10. That was Dave Zeke. I couldn't put out the name. I could not put out the name, but I kept repeating that over and over and over again. Also, if you check who follows me on Twitter, there's a lot of people who follow me on Twitter. I don't mean a lot of, there's people in the whatever. But Dave Zeke was a follower. He started following me back in February. Started following me back in February of right around the time when we said it at Peek Around the Corner that now it was Big 12 was favored to poach from the Pac-12. And that's Dave Zeke did not leak anything that I know of, not to us. But I will say there was leakage at the University of Washington. And that's as far as I will go on that. And I think people kind of found out that there was leakage. But anyways, so right away in this article, I had to just point that out, just to give you a little peek around the corner. Now, let's get back to the article. In fact, let me just go back. Let me give you a little bit more a peek behind the curtain. There was a person, you all know who he is. I'm not going to name his name. I'm not going to name him. A gentleman who liked to put charts out on Twitter, go on shows. He really blasted the Big 12 fan base. He said that everybody was lying, all these reporters. And then he eventually went after me saying that we got everything wrong on Colorado and everything. And he wanted to hold everybody accountable. Well, the fact of the matter is we had the story. He did not And when it all came out, he did not hold himself accountable. That same gentleman, I had one phone call with that gentleman. One phone conversation with that gentleman. And it was about Dave Zeke. And I told that gentleman who made the charts, Dave Zeke, big proponent, I'll protect myself, allegedly, of Washington going to the Big Ten. Anyways, just to give you another little peek around the corner, there was a lot of things that we had to navigate as we told the story about Washington, Oregon to the Big Ten. That was one of the big components that we had to navigate daily, weekly, monthly in this story. Back to the article. Here we go. We're at the Dave Zeke topic. Bleary-eyed, he rolled over toward his phone, glanced at it, and did a double take. The Sender Washington president, Anna Marie Casse, had written a few short words to Zeke. The chair of the University Board of Regents, 3 of them stuck out. Oregon is in. Zeke immediately knew what that meant. Washington and Oregon's move to the Big Ten was complete. On the morning of August 4th, the duel's decision landed like a combination punch, leaving the Pac-12 crippled. The latest blow to a conference sent staggering after first a left hook from USC and UCLA in July 2022, then a gut punch. We called it a shot to the solar plexus. Although we described the meeting on May 7th in Chicago, a shot to the solar plexus, to be more accurate. Then a gut punch from Colorado just a week prior. Oregon and Washington together served up the knockout swing for a 108-year-old conference, a stunning collapse that had been building over a decade of missteps. It was both of us or none of us, Zeke said earlier this week in an interview with Yahoo Sports. The consensus was that if Oregon came along, we do it. 2 months later, in an incredible tip of irony, the Huskies and the Ducks, the Big Ten's Pacific Northwest package, are arguably the Pac-12's best chance at a national championship in the league's final year of existence. On Saturday here in Seattle, they meet as top 10 teams for the first time in the 123-year history of the series. The rare unbeaten showdown in the Pac-12, the league's first unbeaten game this late in the season since 2004. Again, this is Yahoo Sports, Ross Dellinger article of this morning. There's a link provided in the description. You can read the whole thing. Washington, Oregon, rivals turned partners. We're going to skip through that. We're going to skip through a lot of this because, quite honestly, at Peek Around the Corner, we have talked about this probably more than anybody else, and we were doing it in real time. We're skipping through a lot of it. I want to get to the list. They were scrambling. Here's one part I want to get to. Talks with the Big Ten move rapidly. There's a reason for that. Discussions between the two programs in the Big Ten began months prior. After the announcement departure of USC and UCLA, we talked about that at Peek Around the Corner. In August of 2022, 1 month after the Trojans and Bruins news emerged, Washington and Oregon each sent to the Big Ten headquarters a 40-plus page slide presentation in an attempt to convince the league to acquire them. Yahoo Sports obtained both slideshows. Wow. The case for Oregon to the Big Ten, the Ducks presentation slideshow kicks off. Advancing academic, athletic, and financial prosperity, a partnership between the Big Ten Conference and University of Washington. The Huskies' first slide reads, they were far from alone. Here we go. This is the part I want to get to because It's all connected now, ladies and gentlemen. It is all connected. All of this is connected. Within the Big Ten office last summer, again, this is 2022. Then Commissioner Kevin Warren led an exploration that spanned more than a dozen schools, many of whom reached out to the league about an acquisition after the Los Angeles schools joined. This was right after June 30th. Conference office administrators created a list of desired programs thought to be attainable, according to multiple sources who have seen the list. A list of desired programs, schools that the Big Ten would be interested, they would have desired programs thought to be attainable. Schools that could either, yes, eventually be able to join the Big Ten, and who would want to join the Big Ten, possibly wanting to join the Big Ten, and who the Big Ten could get. In other words, ladies and gentlemen, there is no SEC school on this list. They're not attainable. But there are 5 ACC schools on this list and Notre Dame. Got to think about that. Now, they included Notre Dame, North Carolina, Clemson, Florida State, Pittsburgh, Kansas, Cal, Stanford, Arizona, Virginia, and of course, Oregon and Washington. In fact, outside counsel for Oregon and Washington met with the Big Ten administrators twice last year, once in Chicago and another in New York. Brett McMurphy of Action Network broke that news. And other people confirmed the news soon after, like when Ross Dellinger was at Sports Illustrated. We had a list of schools and went through it with the chancellors and presidents, said in a conference official who wished to remain anonymous. Kevin wanted them, Oregon and Washington, to come in with USC and UCLA, but for whatever reason, I know what the reason was. We talked about the reason. We'll get to it in a second. But for whatever reason, the LA schools didn't want to create a West Coast pod. He wasn't able to convince them. There's a lot of things that isn't quite said here. And I think that's as far as we can go with the article. I want to focus on this, then I want to focus on the list, and then I want to focus on the Holy Smokes Theater, because again, it's all tied in. Whatever the reason, the LA schools didn't want to create a West Coast pod. They did not, and we reported this here at Peek Around the Corner. College football's peak around the corner for over an entire year. We reported that USC, UCLA, but most focus was on USC, did not have veto power. The same reasons why USC and UCLA did not want more West Coast schools is the same reason that we reported at Peek Around the Corner while others in the Big Ten wanted more West Coast schools. USC and UCLA, you can't blame them, but they wanted to be the only foxes in the hen house. They wanted to be able to take that money advantage, that exposure advantage, Big Ten advantage, to be able to recruit, not just for football, but for all sports, and say we're in the Big Ten. We get it. It's a smart move. But eventually, eventually there was going to be more Western editions. We talked about it over and over again at Peek Around the Corner. We said that they're going to have to go west before they go east, and that's exactly what happened. Now, was there a unanimous? Look, it goes on in this article to say that I might have missed it already. That with Oregon and Washington, I'll get back to that. With Oregon and Washington for the expansion, there was 3. Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State were against it. They were against it. But again, here is something that just has to be said over and over again. And we talked about it even before Oregon and Washington were added. This is how it's going to work. Oregon and Washington was wanted by Fox Sports. We said it over and over again. They got him in. Penn State, Ohio State, and Michigan are going to call the shots. That's it. They're calling the shots on this Eastern expansion, on the Southeastern expansion. They're calling the shots. And everybody else is going to fall in line, including Fox Sports. Again, I get the arrows thrown at me, that's fine, but it isn't. Nobody controls the whole thing. The networks don't. They do not control realignment and expansion. They have a lot of power. They have a lot of say. Things, the skids have to be greased, but they don't control it all. And neither does any certain segment of the Big Ten. However, this is all connected. This is why we're doing this show tonight. This is why we did the show October 9th and then October 12th. Because it's all starting to, the battlefield is taking shape. And you've got to remember something. Ohio State, Penn State, and Michigan are calling the shots on the next expansion in the Big Ten. Period. End of story. Now, you might say, they always call the shots. They have more influence, but no, they didn't always call the shots. It's not how it works. But I don't want to go down that rabbit hole again. Just, if you don't want to believe me, that's fine. But they're calling the shots here. Keep that in mind when the Big Ten's trying to figure out who they are targeting. What can they get? Who is attainable on the Tony Petitti's list? Who is desirable by Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan? And who is attainable in the belief of Michigan, Ohio State, and Michigan? Penn State, Michigan, Ohio State. Now, let's go through Kevin Warren's list. Let's go through Kevin Warren's list. Just checking the chat, making sure we're going to get to the skates. We're going to get to the skates. That's one of the details we're going to talk about. Tony, disagree with you, Greg. That's fine. If media partners don't pay for a certain school, that is fine. No school is going to take a pay cut. All that is logical. But when Fox Sports went in on this, and they paid for the addition of Oregon and Washington, it was knowing that CBS, NBC, and a little bit of Fox probably are going to pay for the next round of expansion. You're right, Tony, but that is all baked into the cake. Fox Sports, CBS, they're all going to pay for this next realignment. And they're going to do willingly because there's going to be a desirable list and it's only going to be real valuable brands. It's going to bring in more value to the Big Ten. But I'm telling you, because we were told this, the Buckeyes, the Nittany Lions in Michigan are calling the shots. And you see in the Ross Dellinger article, they're the ones who basically first said no. They wanted to make sure, internally in the Big Ten, they wanted to make sure, okay, you're taking Oregon and Washington. We're going to go west. We get to call the shots on the next expansion. Don't have to believe me now, but wait till this thing goes further down the road. When Penn State said to the additions of Oregon and Washington, it's in the article, a source said, or administrator said, bleep this. They're going to get what they want in the next round. That's all I'm saying. And Fox, they know this. And plus, Fox obviously wants to go to the Southeast. Fox wanted Oregon and Washington. And we stated that. We were told that. Fox, they leaked it to certain people. And we were able to obtain that information. And that's why we said it over and over and over again. And sometimes I winked at the camera. It's when we said it's just part of the internal give and go of the Big Ten. The Buckeyes, the Nittany Lions, and the Wolverines are calling the shots in the next expansion. Not Wisconsin. Not Nebraska. Not UCLA. Not Oregon. Not Maryland. Not Minnesota. Not Iowa. It's the Buckeyes, the Lions, and the Wolverines. Okay, now let's get to the list. Let's get to the list before I lose track once again here. Okay, now this list from Kevin Warren included Notre Dame, North Carolina, Clemson, Florida State, Pitt, Kansas, Cal, Stanford, Arizona, Virginia, and of course, Oregon and Washington. And we had people around the corner said, yeah, Stanford's sort of on that list, but we never thought California was. It's obvious that California and Stanford we're in the Tony Petitti world. And we're going to get to that in a second before we go into the Holy Smokes Theater. Because I said I would get into that in the next live show, and here we are. California Stanford has dropped off any Big Ten list. The valuation, and we said it during the whole saga, it dropped off the table. It just isn't going to happen. Which means that being in a big market and being a huge academic university, which California Stanford is, in this last stage end game for at least this generation of realignment when it comes to the Big Ten, because realignment never sleeps. These conferences could fracture in the future, whatever. But in this end game, for this generation of Big Ten composition, California Stanford's not going to be involved. So that means that there's something else that the Big Ten for right now has higher criteria than a big old population demographic. When I say, I better be careful when I say demographics. They are looking at demographics, but they're not interested in the demographics of Northern California when it comes to college sports, college football. So, California, Stanford, big time academia, big research universities, top schools in the country, big population, not enough, there's not that interest. Okay? It just isn't happening. This is Kevin Warren's list, but I believe they're not going to be on Tony Petitti's list. And I don't think they were probably on Kevin Warren's list when he left the office anymore either. But anyways, so Notre Dame, North Carolina, Clemson, Florida State, Pittsburgh. Take a look at Pittsburgh. Sure, they made it on Kevin Warren's list. They're not on Tony Petitti's list. Good university, good research, good area of the country. But I want to make something very clear. Very, very clear. And this is, we're talking about on October 13th. It might take 4 months. I don't think it will. But it might take 4 months for somebody to drop it into their article. Penn State is calling the shots with the Buckeyes in Michigan. So Pittsburgh is not going to be able to get an invitation. Penn State is going to be part of that three-legged table that's calling the shots as the Big Ten expands into the southeast to the east. So Pittsburgh is not part of it. Pittsburgh is not a part of it. Okay. Let's get back to that list again. So, no California, no Stanford, no Pittsburgh, Notre Dame, North Carolina, Clemson, Florida State, and then we get to Kansas. Kansas is always going to be on the Big Ten's list, which is the good news. The bad news is they don't control their own destiny. They are very subject to, they are a long shot. A live shot, further down the line, a real long shot, but they are a live shot. And I would argue they are in a completely different tier than the schools that we're going to focus on in this show. And of course, as we go into the ACC, the Holy Smokes Theater, when it's ACC Drama, Kansas won't be part of the story. And I don't think Kansas is going to be part of the story in the Tony Petitti's era, unless it's at the end. And there is that possibility. There is a separate tier for Big Ten targets where it says Kansas plus a Texas school. But that, not in the cards, at least from the PATC's perspective. Not now. Not at this time. So for now, for what we're discussing here at Peek Around the Corner, we're taking Kansas off. They're not off the list, but what we're talking about here right now at Peek Around the Corner, we're not going to be discussing Kansas. But Kansas is always going to be on a potential Big Ten expansion list. So Notre Dame, North Carolina, Clemson, Florida State. We're going to skip over Pittsburgh, Kansas, California, Stanford. We're going to skip over Arizona. Arizona might have been on the Kevin Warren's list. Arizona, AAU school, Arizona. Kevin Warren loves the state of Arizona. He was, his family's from Arizona, spent a lot of time in Arizona, a graduate from Arizona State. When this list came out, Arizona State were in AAU. Arizona is not in this tier as well. Maybe years down the line, but no, not Arizona as well. Then we look at Virginia. Yes, they will be on Tony Petitti's potential list. Notre Dame, North Carolina, Clemson, Florida State, Virginia, and I would also throw in Miami of Florida. Again, this is Kevin Warren's list. This is what they were looking at then. Since Kevin Warren's list, we've had reports out there by multiple national reporters, and we agree with those reports, saying that Miami of Florida is right there with Florida State and Clemson as part of an expansion list in the current Big Ten. Now we're going to write it down. Notre Dame, North Carolina, Clemson, Florida State, Virginia, Miami, Florida. Now, we don't think a peek around the corner that Georgia Tech is going to play a part in this for the Big Ten or the SEC, of course. Other people disagree. That's fine. You can disagree with everything we're saying. That's fine. That's okay. Again, this is Kevin Warren's list. Now, let me get to something here. Let me get to the just checking any comments here. Making sure there's no super chats that I've missed. Let me get to the Holy Smokes Theater. So, yesterday in our live show, and I'm glad we did it last night, because then we can push this a little bit more tonight. We talked about, for the first time, Greg Sankey has entered in to the Holy Smokes Theater. Sankey, the SEC commissioner, and what that means is they're starting to get proactive in SEC country. They're starting to get proactive because their perception, what we're being told, is that the Big Ten, again, the Big Ten is, how do I put it? Oh, they would put it, the Big Ten would put it as, they're not active, they're not looking, you know the speak that they do. But there is a whole lot of movement behind the scenes. I mean, we heard it December 26, 2022, when the Money Perch told us 2 months that the Florida State was going to say something in public, and they did. That was December 26, 2020. It's October 13th. A lot of this stuff, of course, isn't getting reported on. A lot of this stuff is cloak and dagger. A lot of this stuff, it doesn't mean it's not happening, because it is. Nobody reported out loud that the May 7th meeting was happening in Chicago between Colorado and the Big 12. We knew about it. We called it the hot bubble of action, but we couldn't talk about it. We are in the same environment. People are talking. And nobody has the full story. Of course they don't. We don't at Peek Around the Corner, but we're going to give you our best shot, and we're going to give you more details right now. North Carolina. In that article yesterday that I asked you all to take a look at, take a read from Sportico, basically and we alluded to this the day before that article came out on a live show. Tony Petitti, Kevin Warren's people are gone. They're gone. This is Tony Petitti's office now. And Tony Petitti is leaning heavily on Jim Delaney. It said it in the article. A lot of people are gone. Daniel Montecastle's in the chat. He knows the story. There was people inside the Kevin Warren's administration that was following me during that whole spring and summer of 2022 on Twitter. We captured all the images. They would start following us 2 minutes after we put out anything about USC and the Big Ten. One of those offices inside the Big Ten was held by a chief legal counselor. That person is gone. Those people are gone. This is a new Big Ten leadership, but it's a Jim Delaney, very influenced by Jim Delaney. And we heard about that, we alluded to it, and we discussed it a little bit, and then the Sportico article came out yesterday, and it really alluded to it. And what does that all mean when it comes to the Holy Smokes Theater? It comes back to North Carolina. The school that Jim Delaney wanted in the Big Ten was North Carolina. Okay, I'll protect myself. Allegedly. The talks between, unofficial talks, behind the curtain talks, unofficial talks, however you want to label it, non-official talks, no direct talks, okay? I'm protecting myself here and peek around the corner. No direct talks, no official talks. But there has been years and years of unofficial talks, of a lot of friendships, of a lot of bellying up at the bar, allegedly, discussions over drinks, allegedly. And those are all happening again, allegedly. There was public articles put out. They've been out there for a while. There was one a few months ago, 5 months ago. There was one a few weeks ago talking about UNC possibly building a Division I men's and women's hockey program. Ladies and gentlemen, that's been out there for a while. We've been being told this for a good long while. Again, for those new to the channel or did not see this, on November 18th, 2015, BTM and his sources told me it's very difficult to imagine, but according to source, Delaney is again going down the Notre Dame rabbit hole to try to bring Notre Dame hockey to the Big Ten. November 18th, 2015, nobody was talking about that. That was not on anybody's lips. Nobody was writing this stuff. Nobody. It came. I can't tell you how it came to us, but it came to us. And then a few months later, it was official. Don Lucia, Gophers head coach at the time, hockey. Great news for Big Ten. Notre Dame makes the Big Ten a stronger conference. Those talks. Look, so when we talk about the skates inside the Holy Smokes Theater, and Mr. McCardle, who did this beautiful artwork for us, those are blue skates, and yes, those skates are North Carolina's. The masked man dropped them off. North Carolina making sure the Big Ten knows they are interested. And it's not about joining the Big Ten and just as a hockey program. It's the further talks between North Carolina and the Big Ten, the future goals of North Carolina. There is more than one. More than one. Let me repeat this. I can't, I'm not going to be able to convince many of you, but there's more than one name tied to, there's more than one North Carolina money perch that has interest in a program, that has interest in North Carolina joining the Big Ten. I'm going to guard you on something, though. North Carolina, we don't really know if they are aligned from top to bottom in having the Big Ten as the number one choice. So we're not declaring something. We're not reporting that UNC is going to be a member of the Big Ten. When it gets, if and when it gets to that, you better believe that we're going to give you the peek around the corner, and we're going to be either the first or the second or whatever to report that. But I'm going to say this to you as well. I would like to say to you, we have this information exclusively. No, we do not. I might be the fat guy from Minnesota who has a big enough mouth, who was just given permission to put this little bit more out there, but I can't give out names. I'm the one who's saying it. Just like on March 31st, 2022 with USC, just like February 24th with the Big 12 being able to grab a Pac-12 school, just like Colorado. I will say something. I'm not declaring it. I'm not reporting it that North Carolina is going to be a part of the Big Ten. But there is serious smoke. North Carolina knows they're wanted by both. But there is pro-Big Ten money inside or among. There's pro-Big Ten money among North Carolina's money perch. We've got names, but we're not going to give them out here at Peek Around the Corner. At least not tonight. So, when we say that we are not the only ones to know this, we are not. We are also, or we're not the only ones to perceive this. No way. And we believe, and when I say we, just not some people outside of the PATC, some people outside of myself and the BTM associates, people outside of my circle, I also believe that SEC believes that the Big Ten is the front runner to have North Carolina be a member of the Big Ten Conference when and if, mainly when, the ACC implodes. Therefore, the SEC is now being aggressive. Being very aggressive. And you're seeing a little bit with Greg Sankey and what he's saying in public. A little bit. There was an interview he just did a few days ago, or at least it was released a few days ago. His tenor is changing. The words he uses is changing. And it's going to change more. And it's going to get more aggressive. And I think they're going to try to cozy up. They've already done it. Let me put it to you this way. I do not believe Paul Feinbaum, excuse me. I don't believe Paul Feinbaum and other pieces that can be perceived as mouthpieces of SEC. I don't believe they're going to be downgrading the brand value of Florida State any longer. Those days are over. I think you're going to be seeing a lot of love spilled forward Florida State and Clemson, but mainly Florida State. This is October 13th, 2023. We don't even believe that the official, the announcement to say, look, our intentions to get out of the ACC with the settlement, we don't even think that's going to happen until the first quarter of 2024. We were told that in December of 2022 when we reported to you all. So this is things could change. Now, I also want to say on the other end, things didn't really change in the Big 12 drama. I mean, Colorado was at the center of the stage, day in, day out, day in, day out, day in, day out. We reported to you all. People in the PATC chat room kept saying, why is it only Colorado? Why? Greg, put someone else. Arizona's got to be there. No, we could not report it because it was not true. So things didn't really change. There was a domino list. There was a criteria list. There was bam, 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 bam. And it's shaping up here the same way when it comes to the ACC drama. It looks like from us. It looks like. Now, we could change in a couple weeks. I'll blare it out there and say, holy smokes, there's a change in the Holy Smokes Theater. But right now, it looks like the battlefield is starting to be shaped, and it looks like SEC is giving a lot of flowers and love to Florida State, and the Big Ten's giving a lot of love and flowers to North Carolina, and it's being reciprocated. So those are the details I'm giving you October 13th, which I could not do on October 9th. Yesterday, I just didn't want to go there. I had some more discussions with my associates, and I think we are feeling good about what I can say tonight. Not declaring anything, not reporting that North Carolina is going to become a Big Ten member and Florida State's going to become an SEC member. But it's starting to shape that way for now. And I don't know if that's going to change or not. In the Big 12 drama, things did not change much, did they? It was just when it was going to happen. And you saw in that Ross Dellinger article, thank you, Cameron B. KU on the Big Ten list. Time for my fight song. I'm sorry, Cameron. I haven't practiced the Kansas fight song. I haven't done any fight songs all year long. So if I do a fight song, and I will, it will be the Kansas Jayhawks. It will be their fight song. Kansas on Kevin Warren's list. Yeah, and they're always going to be on the Big Ten list. Always going to be on the Big Ten list. I would advise, though, that we believe they're at the bottom of the list in the Tony Petitti era, and they were on the Kevin Warrens as well. We'll see what happens. But for now, they are a long shot, but a live shot. But they are a long shot. But yes, Kansas is always going to be there. Thank you, Cameron B., for your super chat. I appreciate your generosity. And that is why we have Greg Sankey sitting in the box, the VIP box, not in the same one with Peter Collins, but right next to Peter Collins. And that's why the ice skates are sitting next to Tony Petitti in the 6th row as he sits along with NBC. What we are looking at, and I'll get to your phone calls immediately after this last point. What we are poking and prodding, what we are looking at is ESPN. During the Big 12 saga in the Holy Smokes Theater, we had Fox Sports sitting right between Oregon and Washington. And you saw how that all played out. It was Fox Sports that paid for it. It was Fox Sports that paid for Washington and Oregon. They wanted them. And we were way, way ahead on that. We cannot say in this time on October 13th that ESPN has entered in to the Holy Smokes Theater. If and when we can get to that point, when we have that nugget, and when we can report that nugget, we don't have it though. Then that's when this thing is really going to build up some big momentum. When ESPN walks into the theater, it was big enough that Greg Sankey walked in. It was big enough that a couple weeks before that, the Notre Dame walked in for the very first time. When ESPN walks in, brace for impact, buckle up. Let's get to your phone calls. Now, we have a lot of great games, football games tomorrow. Iowa, Wisconsin, we didn't even talk about that. Notre Dame, USC. We did our predictions yesterday. We got a lot of stuff going on. So let's open up those phone calls. I want to hear what you have to say when you read the Ross Dellinger article or talk about anything in college football. Anything in college football, you go right ahead. Let me open up the phone lines here real quick. Friday evening, week 7, Oregon, Washington. The phone lines are open. 763-260-1333. The phone lines are open. Oregon and Washington. Tomorrow, we're going to be doing a live watch party. Come and join us. We're going to be starting at about 3:10, 3:15 Eastern Time, 2:10, 2:15 Central Time, 10 after 12, 12:15, quarter after 12 Pacific Time. Come join us. We think it's going to be a lot. It's going to be a big game. Bo Nix, Michael Penix Jr. I do want to say something about last night's game. Houston, West Virginia. It was fun to watch. I feel horrible for the Mountaineer fans. I mean, they were down 35-24. They scored a touchdown. They got the ball back. They scored again with 13 seconds to go. Houston's secondary safety overran it. The Mountaineer wide receivers, they did a crossing route. The Houston Cougars defensive backs didn't know who they had. But then Houston hits a Hail Mary at the end of the game.
Wild Ute.
Wild Ute. He is on the line. I haven't heard from Wild Ute in a long time. The floor is yours, good sir.
Hey, Greg, what's going on?
How you doing, buddy? Utah, what's going on?
Hey, it's kind of tough times out here in Utah land. The Cam Rising thing's really getting a lot of fans kind of down.
Yeah.
The smoke is that Rising's probably not playing tomorrow. And so we'll see when he's back. But there's heavy smoke on that right now over in Utah territory. But I've listened to like the new act that's going on here and the new intel here on North Carolina, Florida State, the jostling back and forth amongst the SEC and the Big Ten. And I'm just sitting here and I'm shocked that there really isn't more heat on the University of Miami. I mean, as an outsider here, I'm thinking Miami is like prime recruiting territory, big market, AAU now. Like, why in the world isn't Miami one of the like top options here?
I think,
or especially for like the Big Ten.
Yeah, I think they are actually. Now they weren't on Kevin Warren's list, but I think they are on. I think they are on the Big Ten's list. Reporters have reported that. Brett McMurphy has them on the list. What I think, and I agree with you totally. What I would say about Miami of Florida is, I don't think they're in control of their own destiny. If the Big Ten eats what they want to eat, the Miami of Florida might not make it in. In other words, I think Florida State is valued higher than Miami of Florida by both SEC and the Big Ten. So
is that just based on viewership? Because I'm like, if you factor everything else in, like recruiting grounds, I mean, That's just kind of shocking. I mean, I get that Miami doesn't sell out their home games because the stadium's far away, but that's a big brand. Miami's a big brand,
It's
and
a
I would
big
think
brand.
it would just be right up there with Florida State and Clemson.
I can't disagree with you at all. I just one of the metrics that is looked at heavily that doesn't get talked about too much is, and I know it's only like a little part of it, but Fox Sports they are the main media partner of the Big Ten, and they're going to be for long after I'm gone, right? That's just the way it is. They own 61% of the Big Ten network. They're making a lot of money off the Big Ten. And one of the things they liked about Oregon and Washington was, quite frankly, the fan base is going to buy the Big Ten network. They're going to buy whatever. They're going to. They have the. They're going to buy the demographics. They're going to buy. They have the purchasing power to buy whatever the advertisers show on the Big Ten network. Same with NBC and CBS and of course Fox, main Fox. But that's what a lot of it. That's what they're looking at. Florida State, Tallahassee, Northern Florida, and all that. They're going to buy up the Big Ten network if they become a Big Ten school. Miami and Florida could be a little bit weaker in buying up the Big Ten network, right? That's one of the things that they gauge. California, Stanford, nah. Northern California, nah. They're not going to buy the Big Ten network. They're not going to buy the T-shirts. The sponsorships are not going to come from that part of the region to sponsor a Big Ten event, so on and so forth and so on. I think everything you say about Miami, Florida is correct. I just believe that they're ranked behind Florida State by both SEC and the Big Ten, so they don't really control their destiny at this point.
That's great intel. It's shocking to a degree, and if the SEC and the Big Ten pass, the Big 12, that's got to be the number one school you're looking at. If there's any way you can get Miami into the Big 12, if those two pass, that is unreal to even think about adding a brand like Miami. So crazy times, great stuff, awesome theater.
Yes.
So
you guys doing a show tonight?
Yeah, we're doing a show later tonight.
What time?
We'll be on at 9 p.m. Eastern time, probably when this one's winding down.
Got it.
To action stuff. So.
Got it. Beautiful. Yeah. That's at Holy Rivals.
That's going to be on the Big 12 Mafia show. So we'll be doing our picks. We'll be talking about updates, realignment, Wazoo. There's so much to cover right now. It's craziness out there.
Yes, it is. Beautiful. Okay, I might pop in. So have a great show.
Perfect.
All right.
Thanks, Greg.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Wow, dude. Check him out at the Big 12 Mafia later tonight. Nathan Brown. Nathan Brown, possibly Mullen Vision, possibly Immaculate. I don't want to put out false information, but anyways, when those guys get together, great show.
Call from
Florida State Money Perch.
Florida State Money Perch is on the line. The floor is yours. What's going on?
What's up, Greg? How we doing?
Good.
It's Immaculate, by the way.
Oh, okay. I didn't know it was Immaculate. Mr. Hawkeye, he's getting ready to defeat the Gophers 8 days from now.
I didn't know if you missed out on my joke or not on that, but I don't want to go too far in explaining it.
Yeah, okay. I missed it. I'm not too bright.
No, it's all good. I was just making fun because we talked about ACC so long ago that it seemed crazy at the time. So
yeah.
But actually came on after he got to put on the show. I don't know. Good to hear you might be popping by.
Well, no, I mean like in the chat room or whatever. I don't mean on camera. No one wants to see my ugly face twice in one night. Tell you that.
Oh,
my wife doesn't even want to see me twice in one night.
My wife just closed the door on me, so I get it.
Yeah.
Want to, another thing that most people don't want to admit when it comes to this stuff is as the networks are so big in this, what gets shown on the network is the stadium. It's, the atmosphere of it, what comes across on TV. And when you're talking about Miami, unfortunately, I think that they were probably higher on the list until the stadium situation fell through, and it's just pretty much untenable there. I think that they probably dropped off the list when that fell through. But otherwise, it'd be good for it. But in terms of UNC, I wanted to ask you a question, and we were talking about it in chat. UNC, if they go to the SEC, that pretty much cuts NC State out of the Big Two, because Big Ten's not going to go there. Now, if they can get the SEC to take both, then they would probably be looking to do that, wouldn't you say?
Who's taking both SEC and the Big Ten?
No, to get my hypothesis is UNC goes to the Big Ten, that allows the SEC to take NC State.
Yes.
If UNC goes to the SEC, then they have to talk the SEC into also taking NC State.
Yes, I would agree.
Which is a little more difficult.
Yeah.
And that's why I think UNC might win the battle to go to the Big Ten, even though so many people internally would probably be pushing for the SEC.
Yes. That could be. That could be. I think it's pretty safe to say that North Carolina is not aligned right now on where they would go, who would be their preferred choice. Although the skates were dropped off at Tony Petitti, we went through all that before. There are people pushing for the Big Ten in North Carolina. Your theory about, it might be a little bit easier for North Carolina to go to the Big Ten because that would potentially leave room for North Carolina State to go to the SEC. There may be something to that. Maybe. We'll see. We haven't heard that, but that's interesting to think about.
Yeah, they're not governed by the same board of regents, but they are governed by the same board of governors. Okay. So while internally in the state, it's kind of a mess, is what it seems like. I mean, you're going to get statements from I think it's board of trustees, actually, not regents, but board of trustees that, could be divisive. But in the end, they can only say things until the board of governors comes in and says otherwise. Kind of an extra tier to their situation. So if the board of governors says that, both have to go in equal directions, I think that would actually help UNC go to the Big Ten and NC State to the SEC. And then that draws in the question, like you're saying Florida State to the SEC? I mean,
well, no,
to me.
Well, I'm not
saying it, but like saying
I'm not. We're not reporting anything like that.
Right. I didn't mean to come up with that.
I'm just saying the SEC. Let's just say they're circling their wagons around Florida State. That's a better way of saying it. That's what we have been told a few times in the last week. So we felt good enough to where we can say it out loud on this YouTube channel. So
that makes sense. Makes a lot of sense.
And a couple of things, Immaculate. One is in this Ross Dellinger article, the Kevin Warren list. It said desirable schools that were thought were to be attainable, right? Not attainable in 2036. Not attainable in 2033. Not attainable in 2030. We're talking about you don't say that. You don't have them on a list. You don't even think about them. You don't go through their pros and cons. You don't go through their numbers. You don't go through the data. If it's a attainable school out in 2036, 2033, 2030, they're on your attainable list if you think there's a possibility that they're attainable 3 or 4 years from now. You take that, Immaculate, which to to what Brett McMurphy said on 365 Sports a couple weeks ago. He said it out in public. He said, look, I don't know how we get from here to there, but I do not believe, I'm paraphrasing it, Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina are going to be part of the ACC 3 years from now. So, as you said, Immaculate, and you've been pretty out front on this, things are percolating. Things are I'm not going to say nothing's set in stone. I don't believe. Maybe they are. But things are advancing on this story. And the reports are going to follow, and I think you're starting to see that a little bit here in these reports right now.
Yeah, and as you say, you know, the holy smokes, there's always smoke screen that gets put out in public. It's not to say people are lying or that media are wrong.
Cloak and dagger.
Sometimes they're used. And I don't know of anyone who does that better than Shanky.
Who's Sankey?
Sankey, yeah.
Yeah.
He plays that game to the max. And so when they were talking bad about Florida State, all it really seemed to me was like a parent trying to swat the hand of a child. Like, yeah, if you come here, don't do that. Don't make public statements like that. Don't bring the cameras in and make public statements from your board of trustees about your conference. You know, they had to make a big statement about how they disapprove of that. But no, by no means does that take away the value of Florida State to SEC, nor does it take away the value of Florida State to the Big Ten. And if the SEC is hitching its wagon to being a regional focused conference, then they have to protect their backyard. That's just a strategic necessity.
Yes.
And you get the Big Ten a flag in Tallahassee, Florida.
Yeah.
You could probably see the Georgia border from there. You can damn near see the Alabama border from there.
Yeah.
You're right down the road from New Orleans. I mean, you do not allow the Big Ten to do that. But if they want to give it, even the Big Ten, we'll take it.
And again, you're absolutely right. Correct, Immaculate. And again, go back to Kevin Warren's list. Multiple sources giving this to Yahoo Sports. Other people have got the same list, okay? So this is nailed down stuff, ladies and gentlemen. This is solid. This is true. This is information. Again, it's back to 2022. It's not current right now. But hang with me here. These schools understood that they're on the list. They know they're on the list. There's enough indirect conversations to know they're on the list. SEC knows that North Carolina, Clemson, Florida State are on the list. They were listed on 2022. They're definitely on the list in 2023. So when you talk about, Sankey finally walked into the theater. Things are steaming up. I'm not saying we're in the hot bubble of action yet. Okay? I'm not going to say yet. But we're going through stages. We are not where we were 2 months ago. We're not even close to that stage anymore. This thing is getting hot. That's kind of the point of this live show tonight. Any other things you want to talk about, Immaculate?
I can if we got other people coming on, I can make a real quick call. Can I take my shot? Who I think is going where between the Big and the SEC?
Sure.
All right. UNC and Virginia to the Big Ten. Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina State, and Virginia Tech to the SEC. Both conferences go to 10-game schedules in order to make that happen.
Could be. Got it. North Carolina, Virginia, Big Ten. Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina State, Virginia Tech to the SEC. Thank you, Immaculate. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. You have yourself a great night. Hope to see you a little bit later.
You too, man. Appreciate it. call by Immaculate. I know there's other phone calls that were coming in. Please call again, 763-260-1333. I want to hear what you think about the Ross Deldridge article. What do you think is going to happen in tomorrow's football games? What do you think's going on in the Holy Smokes Theater? Tell me how we got it all wrong. Let me know. First thing first, the grant of rights deal.
Call from
Jim Reese.
Jim Reese, thanks for calling, sir. The floor is yours. What do you got to say?
Hey, Greg. First time I had to talk to you. I've been watching you for a long time, my friend.
Beautiful. I'm glad you called, Jim. What's going on?
So with UNC, pretty excited by that because Maryland and UNC used to have plenty of great battles. I remember watching Len Bias play Michael Jordan and James Worthy.
Len Bias, man. You must be my age then, huh?
Yeah, I'm your age.
Len Bias. If you guys don't know, Len Bias was the basketball player. 1983, 84, or was it 85?
It was 83, 84, 85 in that range. And
What a
freshman year against Jordan.
What a player. What an unbelievable basketball player. It was a tragedy. Go ahead. I'm sorry I interrupted you, Jim. Go ahead.
You're good. So I'm going to go for Golden Blue thought here, speculation zone, okay?
Beautiful. Beautiful.
So I think the big is going to get UNC, Florida State, Clemson, and Notre Dame. So Notre Dame has these big changes coming with the new president and new AD coming. And I think SEC gets Virginia, Virginia Tech, NC State, and Miami.
Wow. You think SEC is going to get Miami, huh?
Yes, because if Big Ten gets Florida State, they're going to have to get another school in Florida, and that's going to be Miami. So that's my speculation, and I really think that's what's going to happen. With all the changes happening in Notre Dame, I feel they're definitely coming. Definitely going to move with the NBC contract not being worked out yet.
Yeah.
And like I said, I think Florida State, the ESPN's been paying them so little that Florida State's going to go with Fox to get into the Big Ten, and Clemson's going to follow them. So that's what my thought is. I have some friends from the Marine Corps that I was stationed with that are big Florida State friends.
Yeah.
And me and them have been talking back and forth and with some of their insiders, and there's a big push down there to get Florida State to the Big Ten.
I believe it. I absolutely believe it. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Beautiful.
I mean, like I said, I've been watching you for a long time, Greg, and I really appreciate your show. I've been sharing it with all my friends, like you tell everybody to do. I
appreciate it, Jim. Are you serving right now, or?
No, I'm not in the Marine Corps anymore. I'm a former Marine, but
okay. Thank you for your service, Jim.
I live in Northern Maryland and been a Maryland fan my whole life. Like I told you, Len Bias and that age, Boomer Esiason, and all them people back in, and been following them ever since.
Yeah, beautiful. They played tough last week.
They did. Just had a few mistakes and let Ohio State come out on top. Now they just got to fix it for the rest of the season. Yeah,
they're going to win a lot of games this year. Thanks, Jim. I appreciate the call. Jim, you have to call again, though, okay?
Absolutely, buddy. And you have a great day.
Beautiful. Mr. Terrapin, Jim Reese, giving us a call. Thanks, Jim. Jim reminded me, I forgot to bring up the Father Jenkins story, the president of Notre Dame. This morning, I got a call. I'll pick that story up in a second here.
Call from
JD.
JD, can you just hold on 1 second?
Sure.
I got a story to tell. So this morning, I got a call from BTM, whatever, one of his associates, not BTM directly, but we were told that Father Jenkins, the president of Notre Dame, was planning to step down in and around the same time Jack Swarbrick, the athletic director. So I put it out on Twitter. I said, sources have told PATC that John Jenkins is planning to step down at the end of the academic year. I put that on Twitter. I thought I broke the story. And I didn't, and we've broken quite a few over the years, but I thought I had this one. And I'm sitting there, I'm going back and forth in my text messages, and then I got a text from a major college football reporter saying, basically, Notre Dame just put that out a few minutes before you were able to put it out. So, in other words, I don't think anybody, Peter Sampson, the Notre Dame writer, he followed me 90 seconds after I did, but Notre Dame actually published it on whatever one of the sites a couple minutes before I was able to get it on Twitter. So then I had to go back on Twitter and said, that Notre Dame had. So I did not break the story. I thought we had it, but Notre Dame put it out. We got it. There's a certain position at Notre Dame that found out about it, sent it. We were able to get it. I thought I had that story, but we failed. We swung and missed. Go ahead, JD. The floor is yours, Mr. Seminole. What's going on?
How you doing, sir?
Doing good. Doing good.
Your last caller was talking about the FSU and the rumors and the connections to the Big Ten, and again, that's all real. Now, what you alluded to in your previous broadcast about Sankey being in the picture again and the SEC being in the picture again, that's real too.
Yeah.
Before the season, some of the insiders were kind of, what they were echoing is that inside the FSU administration, the first month of the season they felt like was really important because peak FSU gets really good viewership numbers. I mean, great viewership numbers. And, they felt like it was important to help establish their value. And sure enough, even through those down years, okay, the viewership numbers were still pretty good. They were the actual TV viewership numbers were just slightly less than Clemson's, but their overall streaming and YouTube streaming numbers actually surpassed Clemson. So now that FSU is, I guess you say, back on its way back to consistently being a winner, okay, that's what's brought the SEC Sankey back into the picture. Plus, like Immaculate said, and what we've been alluding to, for a long time, the fact if the Big Ten can establish a foothold in Florida, at Florida State and Clemson, okay, to me, besides Notre Dame, okay, Florida State and Clemson are the last two big national championship contenders left on the board. They are. Now, there's others that could rise up and become that, but I'm just saying really consistently national brands. You say North Carolina, but I mean, have they ever won a national championship? And I'm not disparaging North Carolina. I'm just talking about future contenders for the playoff on a yearly basis. And, the SEC doesn't want them to get into their backyard. I mean, there's just no doubt about it. I wondered when they would come. The fact that they're coming now leads me to believe, okay, we're a lot closer than maybe even we thought, like you said.
Yeah.
It may not even take to the first quarter of 2024.
You may be right. Yeah.
There's a lot at play. A lot of people don't know FSU's new president, he's been there, year and a half now? He's a Harvard man.
Yeah.
He is hell-bent on getting FSU as an AAU school.
Yeah.
I mean, now they expect to be within 5 years. Some people say within 2 to 3. But there is some preferences. I don't know how each group falls. There's preferences at FSU in the administration to the Big Ten, and then there's also some in the administration or maybe on the board of the trustees that want SEC.
Yeah, same with North Carolina. Yep.
Yes, sir. So, you know, I see benefits to both. But one other thing I wanted to bring up, and Jim Williams, his articles online the last few days have been fascinating to me. There's some things that Jim has posted in the past that I didn't quite agree with, that felt like it was old information. But the fact he's going on record saying that he's talking to ACC officials and he's talking to members at ACC schools, and they're putting numbers on buyouts. They're not just suggesting on potential ACC buyout for the schools wanting to leave. He's actually mentioning figures. And that's to me, that helps me to understand, all right, they're actually talking about buyout numbers.
Yeah.
Now, he kind of alludes that it would be 5 to 7 years down the road. There's no way it's going to be 5 to 7 years down the road. That leads me to believe
it's not going to be 5 to 7 years down the road.
Yeah.
If it was going to be, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Well, if it was 5 or 7, you know what? I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole. I apologize, JD. We believe strongly it's going to be shorter than 5 years down the road. That's all I'm going to say for tonight on it. JD, go ahead. I apologize for interrupting you.
No. I think there'll be announcements next year. Now, do they actually leave? I don't think, the schools leave before 2025 or 2026.
It's going to take a couple of years.
It'll be a 2 to 3 year exit. Yeah. But there'll be announcements, I firmly believe, next year. And, but yes, sir, just all this, I'm kind of glued to your shows because you're obviously getting great information, and you're very discerning. I gotta give you props. You're probably one of the most careful about offering the information, but the one you do offer it, I can take it to the bank because I haven't seen you be proven wrong yet. You're very, very careful to.
We've taken L's here. We've taken L's. I'll give you one example. When we had the story that Colorado was meeting the Big 12 in Chicago on May 7th, but we couldn't actually say that. We talked about this hot bubble of action. And then on May 8th, I said Big Pac-12 took a shot to the solar plexus and everything. We had the Holy Smokes Theater up and running. And I said Colorado's at the center of the stage. And I said the president of Colorado's on the center of the stage, not the chancellor. Got it wrong. It was the chancellor, not the president. We had our information wrong on that. So a little bit of details, we try not to get them wrong, but we do. And when we find out we do, we take the big L on that. One of the things, JD, that I just want to make perfectly clear. Immaculate says, yes, Jim Williams does have connections. I like listening to Jim Williams. I've had the fortunate communicate with him a few times on Twitter. Have never spoke to him in person on the phone. Hopefully someday that will happen. But JD, one of the points I want to get across tonight, and I know it sounds, it's going to sound superficial to some people, and that's okay. I understand it, but we are really. We're really convinced of this, else I would not have said it, and this sounds superficial, I get it, but the Buckeyes, the Nittany Lions, and Michigan Wolverines are going to call the shots on who's going to be the top targets when the ACC implodes. And if you saw the 2022 list of Kevin Warren's, and then we went over what we believe would be the 2023 Tony Petitti's list, of course it's going to have Florida State, it's going to have a Clemson, it's going to have North Carolina. We believe it's going to have Virginia. The thing about Florida State is, JD, is that SEC knows that they're being targeted by the Big Ten, that they're undesirable. See, the SEC has to circle their wagons around the Seminoles. This has been going on for a while, like you've said. This has been going on for a while. These talks have been going on for a while. Now SEC's finally getting involved, and all of this makes Florida State's Seminoles position stronger, not weaker.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely. Michael Alford did at the beginning of the 2022 season.
Yes.
They had already hired media relations firms to do all the figures and statistics, and they found out that at that time, if you put FSU in either the SEC or the Big Ten, okay, and then adjusted for TV revenue and adjusted, did the proper adjustments
Yep.
To what the revenue, they would have been number 3 in both of those conferences.
Yeah.
And that was at that time. Now, again, I understand, I'm a big FSU guy. We're not the number one university out there. We're not the biggest name. Ohio State's always going to be the biggest name. Alabama's a big name. Georgia's a big name. Georgia has an advantage because of its location. But at the same time, we understand our place, but we also understand we've been way undervalued. And,
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And so, and yes, what you have been reporting is exactly what we've been hearing is that, Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, and then some people would say Wisconsin joins with that group. I'm not a big enough, I'm not as knowledgeable on Big Ten politics as
normally that would be the case because Michigan and Wisconsin are tied to the hip when it comes to Big Ten politics. And I could go down a rabbit hole and why that is. I won't. Just they are the biggest research universities. I won't go down that rabbit hole, but Michigan and Wisconsin are allies when it comes to anything in the Big Ten. But as Immaculate put down in the chat, Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State were all against Oregon. Yes, they were. And that is why here at Peek Around the Corner, throughout the 14 months or whatever, we never said that Oregon was wanted by any of those schools. We said over and over and over and over again that Oregon was wanted by Fox Sports. And that's why it was going to happen 5 months from now, 5 years from now. What we're saying tonight, and we're going to say it over and over and over again until people get tired of us, is that the Buckeyes, the Wolverines, and the Nittany Lions are calling the shots on who they're going to target. If they have a choice between A and B, if both are available, Big Ten's going with what those 3 schools want. And Fox Sports is going to acquiesce because Fox Sports is going to want to be able to get down into any of that territory, any of that demographics. Fox Sports wants in down in the Southeast. The only Power 5 content that Fox Sports has, I believe, in the state of Florida is UCF, correct? So they want in down there, obviously. Buckeyes, Michigan, Lions. So the relationships, I don't know what the relationships are. We're gonna delve into it though. I can promise you that, JD. But I don't know what the relationships are between Florida State's leadership right now today with Michigan, Penn State, and Ohio State's leadership. Ohio State doesn't even have leadership right now. But they first got to figure out who's going to be the leaders of Ohio State when it comes to the president and athletic department. That has to happen first. And I don't know the relationship between Clemson leadership and those institutions or North Carolina. Well, I do know some of the North Carolina's relationships with the Big Ten institutions. But I don't know about Florida State. That is something that we're going to have to dig into in the coming weeks ahead.
We've been told that as far as Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State, I've heard it from 3 different sources, Penn State and then whoever else, that they were all a take for Florida State. They wanted Florida State. And one of our biggest insiders, like I told you, one of his family members is either is an athletic director or is in the athletic department of one of the Big Ten schools. He won't say which. That FSU's their number one target except for Notre Dame. That's what he says. And so he hadn't been wrong up to this point. Now, and that would kind of, go along with what a lot of other things that I've heard. Now, I don't know if it's really FSU, if it's North Carolina. I don't know. I just know they're either 1, 2, or 3, as far as targets, and it's not a competition. It's just, we want out of prison, man. We want parole.
Yeah, I understand.
We just want out of parole. A lot of schools love their conferences. FSU fans have hated the ACC. I mean, 99.9% have hated the ACC for 20 years. Promise you, it's been 20 years, and it's just. They're not as aggressive as other conferences. But anyway, I could go on and on. I got some good stories down the road whenever we first started hearing July and August of 2022, a lot of the information we were getting back then, judge of what's going on today. Yeah. And but anyway, I didn't mean to take up so much of your time. I really appreciate it, sir.
Appreciate it, JD. Mr. Seminole. Call again, sir. Thanks a lot, man.
Have a good night.
Yeah, you too. Yeah, getting back to that West Virginia-Houston game, I don't know. At that, my heart just sank for the Mountaineers. That Hail Mary, when Houston got that penalty. When West Virginia got that penalty, when the quarterback Green took his helmet off.
Call from
Ryan Thomas.
Ryan Thomas is on the line. The floor is yours. Ryan, I saw you on some, what was it? Holy Rivals or?
Yeah, I think it might have been Holy Rivals.
Yep. Good job, sir.
Well, all I have to say is, have we identified the fire exits in the Holy Smokes Theater, Greg?
Are they in the artwork? Let me check real quick. There's no fire exit. No, I don't think. I mean,
we're going to need them because things are going to be blazing soon, Greg.
I think so.
I just want to point out here. If you recall, about 9 months ago, you had a certain caller. He a little bit of a high-pitched voice and a dork, but he said something about the SEC better be careful about the Big Ten getting in its backyard. And right now we're seeing this, and I think what you could honestly see here is. I can see at this point right now the Big Ten and the SEC are probably going to – the reason why the grant rights may not be an issue is because the Big Ten and the SEC are going to probably straight up buy the media rights for the schools that they take from the ACC. And then they could negotiate and figure out the exit penalty on their own, which probably, they could easily settle for 60%. As been seen, but I mean, I think that's what's going to happen, and the ACC, I think it could either continue to survive, and I think it wants to in that quasi, academically elite style, but it really depends on who gets taken off the board. Florida State, I think Florida State right now is the number one target. For both the SEC and the Big Ten at this point. And I think that certainly UNC's up there. Clemson's an interesting animal, but I think right now Florida and Georgia are being told to shut up. And, I think that's, Clemson is definitely in the mix there. But I think the SEC would love to get into Northern Virginia and North Carolina. So I think, there might be there's going to be a lot of cloak and dagger stuff here, Greg. There's going to be a lot of wheeling and dealing right here because
it's going on.
There might be some trade-offs here, right? And I know when this is all done privately in person, with all the phones checked at the door, and secret locations, like a massive, conspiracy type thing, this is like CIA type stuff, Greg. There might be some trade-offs and, who's going to go where, and it's going to be really interesting to see. But, if the ACC can keep its defections down to 3 or 4, then it can survive. Yeah. But boy, I mean, if the ACC starts losing, if the ACC starts losing more than that, I think its existence as a conference is in a similar precarious situation as the Pac-10, because I don't know how, because I think UVA is definitely a tantalizing target for the SEC. It's a nice academic chip in its, card in its, in its hand, and certainly same with UNC. And I think Florida State's going to end up in the Big Ten. I think that's going to happen. And that was I just think the SEC missed the boat on that. They missed the boat on it, and that's a wound that they're going to have to deal with. And Moen and I kind of sort of feel like we're he's Doc Brown and I'm Marty McFly here, but Moen and I have told you this on the Georgia Tech issue. I mean, they're not the number one. They're not at all. They're not an A-tier pick for the Big Ten, but they've got to be in the mix there as far as a nice big market, nice academic thing. And I know that the Big Ten doesn't like going after second fiddle in the markets, but with realignment, everything's changing, Greg. The rules have all changed, and anything can happen at this point.
All I can say on that is, thus far, we've heard nothing about Georgia Tech here at Peek Around the Corner.
Yeah.
If we do, well, it doesn't mean we're right, though. But go ahead.
Yeah, but that's because I think Clemson and FSU are the two targets by the Big Ten right now. Clemson solved the Atlanta problem pretty well, and not the Atlanta problem, but the Atlanta opportunity pretty well. And Florida State obviously gets them in Florida. I mean, I think Clemson and Florida State are the picks that the Big Ten wants, and the SEC is going to have to. The SEC and ESPN are going to have to open up the checkbook and make things happen if they don't want, the Big Ten to get their foot in the door. And we'll see what happens. But I think if Clemson and FSU go to the Big Ten, I think at that point UNC and UVA are probably in all likelihood headed to the SEC. And people want to say that I'm crazy and I'm stupid, but the thing is there's pressure to go to 9 to even 10 conference games. And, as Moen has said, somebody's got to lose. And, Missouri and Vanderbilt happily serve that role in the SEC. And, if you have to go to 10 games, Austin Pay is not going to become an option anymore. So you're going to need your W somewhere else. So I think, looking at markets, and opportunities to expand their TV network and their reach, that's really what this is all about. And I think, we'll see what happens. But, I think a lot of this is going to be very interesting. And, if UVA and UNC go to the SEC, I think you're going to see the ACC itself unravel. I think at that point, Virginia Tech and NC State are out the door somewhere else. But that's just my thoughts on that. So, we'll see it all come to fruition. But great job on the show, Greg. I really appreciate everything you do. You've been completely 100% class this entire time, and it's been refreshing. And I just really appreciate you. You had a lot of reason, a lot of cause to maybe dunk on some people with some receipts, but you've been really classy and you've been gracious in victory and gracious in defeat, and which is not very often. But like I said, I'll leave you with this. Going back to the Doc Brown and Marty McFly, and Mullen and I were talking. If you remember Back to the Future 2, you remember the almanac, Greg?
Huh?
Did you see Back to the Future 2, Greg?
I'm sure I did, but I'm sure I don't remember much.
Okay, that's fun. It's about a sports almanac going back in the past.
Yes, yep.
So Mullen and I said that we need to go into the future and get the sports almanac so we can come back and de-thaw both you and Mullen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, take care.
Appreciate it, man.
See you there, and have a great day.
Call again, Ryan. Appreciate it. Always nice to hear from Ryan Thomas. Tough Tony says, Greg, remember the Vikings beat the Browns on the Hail Mary from Kramer to Ahmad Rashad? Seems like yesterday. Yes, I was downstairs in the basement, my mom and dad's Robbinsdale home, and I jumped up into my dad's arm, and I went, yee! I remember that. Bloomington, Minnesota, there was snow shoveled off at the side of the field. That was 1980, I think.
Call from
Steve.
Steve, can you hold on 1 second?
Sure.
Appreciate it. Just going down memory lane here a little bit. The play before that, Tony, Hail Mary was a hook and ladder to Teddy Brown. Or I don't remember who caught the ball, but someone caught the ball and then lateraled it to Teddy Brown, and Teddy Brown ran to the 50-yard line, and then it was the last play of the game. Hail Mary from Kramer to Rashad. Minnesota Vikings were the North Division champions off that Hail Mary. That brought back a lot of memory. Steve, Mr. Bearcat, the floor is yours. What's going on, sir?
I'm currently in my car about an hour and a half from my Florida home. So That's what's going on with me.
All right.
This may be one of the shortest calls you've ever had in the history, Greg.
Beautiful. Okay, that's
talking
okay.
About all the realignment
Yep.
and everything. What's going on with Notre Dame and NBC?
Well, now we reported, 3 or 4 weeks ago, that at best it was lukewarm between NBC and the Big Ten. We also thought that there was going to be some reporting of this a couple weeks from after we said it, and it did not happen. So we have to take the L on that. There has been no reporting of this. So a very good question. We think it's lukewarm. We were told that a month ago. Haven't heard anything since. I'll probably start poking and prodding on that issue right now, in fact, after I get off the phone here. I haven't been on that, but I will get back on that.
Yeah, everybody's talking, and obviously you got some great information. I'm not questioning your information.
Yeah.
But very few people are talking about what Notre Dame, what options they have on the table. It's NBC. It's if they don't get the money from NBC, then it's stay independent and try to find another media partner, or you join the ACC full time, or if the Big Ten comes calling, you go there.
Now, Steve, did you read Ross Dellinger's article this morning?
No, Greg, I left at 5 o'clock this morning.
Okay. Can I read you just are you driving right now? Can I read just a one paragraph?
I'm driving, Greg. I'm driving.
Okay,
yep,
I'm going to read you.
Yep.
I'm just going to read you a paragraph. Ross Dellinger article talked about the Oregon, Washington, how that all came about. He released it this morning. But in the article, Kevin Warren and they created a list Okay? The conference office administrators created a list of desired programs thought to be attainable.
Yep, I heard you speak of that earlier.
Yeah, and that list included Notre Dame, North Carolina, Clemson, Florida State. So Notre Dame was on the list. This is just days after the June 30th announcement, 2022, that that USC and UCLA were joining the Big Ten. Notre Dame was included on that list that the Big Ten at that time thought they were attainable. None of the SEC schools were on the list, of course, but Notre Dame was. So at least at that point, and I believe it now today as well, that there's a belief that they are attainable, that this could happen.
Well, everybody talked Clemson and Florida State and North Carolina, but I think everybody better pay attention to what's going on between Notre Dame and NBC. I really think.
Yes, sir.
I don't think there's enough attention being paid to that.
Yeah.
And that could blow up a lot of things.
Yes, sir.
A lot of things. So, anyhow, Greg, I'm in some pretty good Florida traffic right now, so
okay.
I'll let you go.
All right, Mr. Bearcat. Appreciate the phone call. Call again, Steve.
Thanks.
All right,
Take
buddy.
care.
Yep.
Bye.
Steve, Mr. Bearcat, letting us know, reminding us all once again, keep an eye on that NBC Notre Dame meeting negotiations. What's going to happen? Notre Dame shooting for $65 million a year, $70 million a year. Can they get it with NBC? At this point, I got to be honest, I would be more than a little surprised. The question is Notre Dame going to get enough money from NBC? Are they going to be able to get enough money? They get the exposure. They like that time slot. 2:30 Eastern Time, 1:30 Central Time, NBC on most of their home games. Once in a while, a primetime game, even with NBC's primetime media contract with the Big Ten. Notre Dame's still going to get one or two of those a year. But can Notre Dame take the offer if it's, let's say, $45 million a year, $25 million a year behind every Big Ten and pretty much every SEC school when it comes to the media money alone? Plus, there's other revenue streams that these bigger conferences are going to be able to get. They're going to be able to offer their student athletes more than I believe Notre Dame is going to be able to give. There could be some conference-wide NIL deals. Who knows what the future is? But I believe the walls are closing in on Notre Dame's ability to maintain independence. Phone lines are back open, 763-260-1333. A bunch of great calls tonight. I appreciate it. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe to the channel. Smash the like button if you liked our content, and share the video with your family and friends. If you want to donate to us to help us keep the lights on, make sure your comment gets read. Do a deep dive on it, hit the $ sign, and make a comment. But I do want to appreciate at least you all coming in to the PATC chat room on a Friday evening. For you all to spend some time with me talking about the Ross Dellinger article, talking about the changes in the Holy Smokes Theater. I got to thank you all for doing that. I appreciate it. I'm very grateful. I'm glad you all take it in. This Holy Smokes Theater is something fun that we do.
Call from
PSU Nitwit.
PSU Nitwit is on the line. The Nittany Lions are still undefeated. So Greg the Cooler has not caused Penn State to get off the rails quite yet. the floor is yours, good man. What do you got to say?
Hey, Greg, I just wanted to call in. Great show. Still enjoying this Penn State season.
Yes.
We got Ohio State coming up next weekend, and that's going to be a big-time game here in college football.
Woo-hoo-hoo. Yes, it will be.
Strap your helmets on when Penn State and Ohio State get together.
Strap it in. Strap it in. It won't be a rivalry. It won't be a permanent rivalry game anymore after this year. So, but
I know that's.
Yep.
Tell you what, it's been one of the best games in the Big Ten for the last.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
20 years. So sad to see it to go.
Yeah.
But I wanted to call in and talk about this, and I know, like, you and I got into the Pac-12 a little bit and the economics of everything.
Yes.
And there's still some instability out here. You basically have a college market has been turned upside down. And it's making it some of these things are predictable, but some of them are going to be unpredictable as more instability gets pushed into the market. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes. No, I get where you're going with it. Yep.
So, I mean, basically, if you look at the economics of it, what's the minimum number, Greg? If you ran a football program in this new future model, what is it, 50 million? If I throw that number out there, is that the walking around number?
50 million for what?
To be competitive.
Oh.
To be competitive in the new football.
You know what?
Football market. It'd be 50 million, right?
For media money?
Yeah.
You know what? I don't know the answer to that. It's a great question, and I'm not trying to dodge it. It's a great question, but because this has just started, I mean, we haven't. Okay, let me put it to you this way. Penn State Nittany Lions, the incredible money you guys are getting in media money, $70 million a year just in media money, okay? The $30 million advantage that you have over Florida State, Miami of Florida, North Carolina, Boston, name all the ACC teams, name all the Big 12 teams, name all the last couple of the Pac-12 teams, all the Big 12 teams. We don't even know really how big advantage of that is yet because we really haven't got into it yet. Plus we don't have these players, student athletes, being employees yet or even quasi-employees yet. We have NIL buckets, so we don't know if it's going to go the way I think it's going to go, and a lot of people think it's going to go, and Oklahoma and Texas think it's going to go because they went to the SEC. USC thought it was going to go because they went to the Big Ten. If we're going to get into this employment status where they're going to get paid directly or indirectly by the school, conference, or both, Penn State's advantage is huge over the other schools that don't reach the same media stratification line. So my answer is yes. I don't know, but it could be massive, and it might take a school to get really close to Penn State's number to be able to challenge for the national championship in football.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying here. Is this college football market has become unstable. Do you understand what I mean? You have money being thrown different areas. You have people making bets on certain things that in 5 years might not even be the same thing. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah,
you can't tell me that ESPN in 10 years could be the same variable than it is right now. You know what I mean? So as we throw all this stuff out there, like, we don't even know, and that's a great answer to my question. We don't even know. Like, if you want to play this game, what is the minimum?
I don't know.
To get in the game.
Yeah.
No one knows.
I don't know.
You know what I mean? So there's so much uncertainty. I think that's what's really fueling this Florida State and UNC. Like, you can't wait.
Yes.
This is a moment, like, remember, like, Harvard used to be the biggest football program, and something happened. And, like, this is one of those moments in college football history.
Yes, sir.
Like, you better make the bet a good bet because you're going to be left behind.
Yes, sir.
And it's sad to say that, and it's sad to see programs and rivalries go.
Yeah.
But you got to start answering the questions. Like, things need to start being defined. Like, are you going to pay players, and how do you do that?
Yeah.
Because in college football, what made it great, and you understood it, there was always a level playing field in some ways. Do you understand, Greg?
Yeah.
Like, you had the same amount of scholarships.
Yeah.
Everybody played under the same rules. Some of them were broken, and players got paid or whatever. But you had opportunity. Where now opportunities are being closed amongst big-time programs, and we can't even define what is the minimum threshold to even get in the game.
Yeah.
And I think that urgency with Florida State.
Yes.
Like, I would send a letter now. Let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah.
That's what's at stake, Greg. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
If they don't win, if they don't do something, you could end up being, on the wrong side of this thing.
They bleed out. They bleed out because they get 1,000 cuts, paper cuts. Yep.
Yeah. The first year you're going to be behind $10 million. The next year you'll be behind $30 million. The next year you'll be behind $40 million.
Yeah.
You can't play that game. It's not economic. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So I'm just throwing it out there. Like, I think these things that you're talking about, like, I know people are saying 3-4 years down the road. Well, I tell you what, these people that are pretty smart people, and if you're an economic analyst, hey man, I got to do something here.
Yep. That's exactly.
But we're not even going to be in the game.
Yeah.
I appreciate you taking my call.
Yep.
Love your show. Love the PATC community. You guys are the best in the chat room. I know I get ragged all the time. But you know what? Penn State, Ohio State coming up.
Yeah.
We're going to win one for Greg.
That's right.
It's not going to be Greg the Cooler anymore.
That's right. Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
You take care.
All right, sir. Man, was that a great call or what? Holy smokes, that was a great call. Look, and I got to go back to it, but because it was a big moment in time when Oklahoma.
Call from
Immaculate.
Can you hold on 1 second?
Yeah, real quick.
Appreciate it. I know you got to get on your live show here. Hold on 1 second. When Oklahoma and Texas called the SEC, they were betting on a future that was going to be greatly different than the one that they were sitting in. They were betting on a different future. They weren't going to the SEC. They were going to the SEC because they felt they needed to hit a certain exposure in media, exposure stratification line to be able to compete at the highest sports in football and college sports. They felt that the quasi-employment employee relationship was going to happen. And NIL doesn't, Elliot Cruz makes a good comment here, it isn't about the media money payouts going forward, it's about NIL. But it is about the media money payments going forward because the boosters do not want to double dip continuously to keep their programs competitive. That's why USC called the Big Ten. That's why I found out about it, that the boosters were talking. USC's boosters did not want to pay for the big collectors in the NIL, but yet have USC $35 million behind every single year to the Buckeyes, to the Hawkeyes, to the Alabama Crimson Tide. They did not want that to happen, so they went for it. They went into the Big Ten. Even though it blew up a whole lot of things, blew up relationships, they did it. Same thing with Oklahoma and Texas. They didn't go to the SEC because it was easier to win a conference championship game. They went there because of the massive exposure and, yes, the media money. So their boosters don't have to continually double dip. Immaculate, thanks for your patience. The floor is yours. I know you got to be quick.
Yeah, I just I appreciate letting me come back in again. We've been having a great chat out there. So one thing kind of directed towards chat and also what we were talking about. And then another thing between us would be kind of be funny. But the thing that's been going on, and people are wondering, how does this happen? How many can go? And why it has to be above a certain number of schools. This is how they beat the Gore. If you take, say, the 6 schools that I listed before, and you pull them out of that conference, I don't care who they backfill with another 3, ESPN is not going to have a choice. They're going to have to force a renegotiated contract with the ACC for less pay. And if that happens, that means they have to sign a new Gore.
I don't think
those 6
so.
schools get out.
I don't agree with that.
A Gore goes with the signing of a new contract.
But they're never gonna. Okay, I don't want to go down that. We'll take that in another show.
Do that another day. But
yes, but I will say this. That's one of the big reasons why I don't think Notre Dame will join the ACC as a football member. I don't even think that's a possibility. And I know you and others believe that's a possibility. I don't think it is, because once the ACC loses these top end top brands, Notre Dame is not going to be able to cobble enough money together with an ACC with their own independent and with the schedule, with the exposure. I don't think they can hang on to their independent status, or they can't join the ACC as well. But
that was a great segue to my second point, if I may.
Okay, go ahead.
You remember a while back, I pointed something out to you, and it was just so far ahead. I was like, maybe someday in the future we'll talk about it. And I pointed out the Ivy League situation. Remember when I was talking about that law with the lawsuit that was going on there?
Yes.
And now we have the basketball team on a second situation that is looking to push against the scholarship issue there once again. And this one seems to be getting a lot more traction, a lot more attention. And both of these are attacks on the scholarship situation that happens at the Ivy League.
Yeah.
So what do we have? Jim Williams, who's reporting what he's getting from the ACC. And what did they compare the idea to? The Ivy League.
Yeah.
Not that it is, but it seems to me kind of like a little bit of a hand wave.
Yeah.
If that doesn't work out for you and you have to scrap that scholarship situation and you're looking for maybe putting a sport somewhere that can actually make you money to pay for all those scholarships, which are expensive at the Ivy League, maybe you want to put your football teams here. Just saying.
Yep. All right.
So keep an eye on that one.
Got it.
I'm gonna take credit for that one, but once again, got to go to the show. Hopefully, we see you on there.
Appreciate it.
Everyone have a great.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. All right, so we're gonna shut it down for the night. Been on a little bit more than 2 hours. I appreciate you all coming in. Fantastic phone calls. Thanks for the donations. Great chat. A lot of things we went over tonight. Holy smokes, theater is a buzzing. The popcorn line is long. People are trying to get their pops, their beers, their bottle or little glasses of wine. Maybe. Been a great night. Follow us here. Keep hanging with us here at Peek Around the Corner. We're going to be following this story and so many others as we head into we are at the midpoint of the college football season. Tomorrow we're going to be doing a watch party, live watch party. Oregon, Washington, be here in the PATC room. It's going to be a lot of fun. The Huskies versus the Ducks. Who's going to win? We believe Washington is, but it's going to be a great football game. Michael Penix Jr. versus Bo Nix and Bucky Irving. It's going to run that ball for the Ducks. Holy smokes. Until next time, from all of us here at College Football's Peek Around the Corner to all of you. Please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.